I never planned for it to happen. If you had asked me just a day before, I would have laughed at the idea, me, doing something like this. It didn't seem possible, but sometimes, all it takes is one glance, one breath, one beat of the heart, and suddenly, all the rules you've lived by don't matter anymore. That night, something inside me just let go. Not in chaos, not in panic, but in complete clarity, like something that had been tightly held inside me for far too long had finally released. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was just ready. The house was quiet, too quiet. The only sound was the ceiling fan spinning slowly above me, casting moving shadows across the room like it knew what was about to happen. Something that couldn't be undone. Earlier that evening, he looked at me, not with words, not even with a smile, but with eyes that stayed on me too long. Eyes filled with everything we'd never said out loud. He looked like he wanted to speak, but didn't. Maybe it was fear, or pride. Or maybe he knew that once this line was crossed, we could never go back. This thing between us wasn't new. It had been there for months, maybe longer. We'd danced around it, lingering touches, glances that held a little too long, laughs that came too easily. Sitting too close, talking late into the night like there was no one else in the world. We never named it, never gave it air, until that night, I stepped out of the bedroom without a word, without clothes, without hesitation. There was nothing covering me, physically or emotionally. The hallway was dim, shadows hugging the walls. He stood at the other end. When his eyes found me, I saw it, the moment everything between us changed. He didn't move, not at first. His gaze moved over me slowly, then came back to my eyes, not filled with lust, but something deeper. Like awe and fear mixed into one. Then he stepped forward, each step slow and sure, until I felt the cold wall at my back and the rising heat between us. Still, he didn't touch me. His hands hovered close, like something was holding him back. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was the weight of the past, or the quiet voices of warning we'd both ignored. I could almost feel his inner war, reach for me or turn away. Speak or stay silent, pretend nothing was happening, or finally admit what always had been. But some choices don't leave room for who you were before. And I had already made mine. I had already stepped beyond the point of return. And this time, I wasn't going back. He leaned in close, his breath brushing mine, warm, unsteady. We were face to face, close enough that I could feel every breath, every beat between us. But somehow, he still held back, keeping just enough distance to make it unbearable. And just when I thought I knew what was about to happen, just when I thought the moment would finally break, he spoke. Not loudly, not clearly, but in a whisper that cut deeper than any touch ever could. Whatever he said, it stopped me. It didn't touch my skin, it touched something deeper, something I wasn't ready for. And suddenly, the silence between us felt louder than anything else. We had never been strangers to tension. Our entire connection had been built on it. Quiet late-night talks that lasted too long, hands brushing on accident that lingered just a little, texts we typed but never sent, and those glances, the ones that always seemed to say more than we ever dared to admit. We were always hovering near something more. Almost lovers, almost honest, almost something real, but almost doesn't hold you when the silence grows heavy. Almost doesn't warm you when you feel cold inside. That night, I stopped holding my breath. The stillness between us wasn't empty, it was full. Full of everything we hadn't said. All the hidden feelings, all the hesitations and what-ifs. He looked at me then, and it was like watching a storm build behind his eyes. I saw everything all at once, longing, guilt, desire, fear. So much fear. His hand rose again, slowly, halfway to my face. I thought he was finally going to touch me. Break the tension, let everything out, but his hand stopped, just hovered there for a moment, then dropped. The shift between us was instant. The air changed. It grew heavier, thicker, like we were both suffocating in everything left unsaid. And I realized then, he wasn't just scared of what might happen. He was scared of how badly he wanted it. Scared of what it meant, what it could destroy, what it might reveal. Was he afraid of me? Or was he terrified of himself? The wall behind me felt cold, but not colder than what was suddenly between us. The space between us still hadn't closed, but the heat from his presence was overwhelming, like I was caught between winter and fire. He still hadn't touched me. Still hadn't said a word. And just as I reached the point where I couldn't bear another second of that aching restraint, his phone buzzed. One single vibration, sharp and precise, like a cut. It sliced through everything. He didn't move at first, but his eyes did. They shifted, calculating, torn. In that split second, he was choosing me or whatever was lighting up that screen. Slowly, he reached into his pocket, pulled out the phone, and looked down. And that was it. His whole body changed. Tension took over. His shoulders stiffened, his jaw locked, and the warmth that had filled his face just moments ago drained away. He looked back at me, not with the same heat or hunger, but with something heavier. Guilt. Burden. Then he spoke, barely loud enough to hear, like he was already bracing for the fallout. I didn't want you to find out like this. My heart raced, not from desire anymore, but from something darker, dread. Find out what? I asked, though I already knew this wasn't just about us anymore. This was about something bigger. Something he'd been hiding. It wasn't lust that cracked between us, it was truth. Secrets, the kind you keep buried because they change everything when they surface. He stared at me, like he wanted to reach out, but couldn't. Not because he didn't want to, but because touching me now meant breaking the silence. It meant telling me everything. And then, finally, he whispered, that call, it was her. She's back. Her. The woman he never talked about, not completely. Only in scattered fragments, like saying her name out loud might summon her. She was back, and now, it wasn't just me standing exposed in that hallway. He was stripped bare too, caught in the past he had never truly let go of. So I asked, my voice steady even though my insides were trembling. What now? Do you go back to what shattered you, or stay and face what this is? He didn't answer right away. The silence pressed in again. But then, he stepped forward. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his hand and placed it gently on my face. His touch was warm, grounded, sure. Real. And then he said it. I don't want the past. I want you. It should have felt like a dream. Just when I thought we were finally stepping into something real, the buzzer rang again. It echoed through the stillness like a cruel reminder that the past was never truly done. He looked at his phone, and I saw the color drain from his face. It's her, he said, voice flat. She's here, downstairs. My body tensed. I braced for it, for the moment he would turn, leave, chase the past that had already broken him once, and leave me there, bare in every sense. But he didn't. Instead, he powered off his phone and looked at me. Really looked. And this time, there was no hesitation. No fear. Just truth. I don't owe the past anything, he said quietly, but I owe you the truth. That moment changed everything. I stopped waiting for fairy tale endings or dramatic declarations. Because real love, the kind that stays, doesn't always arrive with fireworks or perfect timing. It shows up in the quiet, in the terrifying little choices we make. Like turning off a phone when the past comes knocking. Like staying when leaving would be easier. He stepped forward again, slowly, then rested his forehead against mine. There was no rush, no need to fill the space with words. Just our breath, our closeness, and the honesty that hung between us like a fragile thread holding everything together. In that moment, I knew. Maybe this wasn't the end of our story. Maybe it was the real beginning. Would you trust someone like that, after everything? Would you open your heart even if the past still had a key? Because sometimes, the most seductive thing isn't what happens behind closed doors, it's choosing to open them to someone who finally sees you, fully and without fear. Disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction created for mature audiences and is intended for entertainment and emotional reflection only. Any similarities to actual events, individuals, or relationships are purely coincidental. Viewer discretion is advised due to themes involving emotional intimacy, vulnerability, and adult situations. The content does not promote infidelity, deceit, or any form of unethical behavior, it simply explores the complexity of human emotions and choices. Please engage responsibly.